Many of you might have started your holidays already, or at least have completed most of your SACs for the term. So congratulations to you guys for getting through basically half of the year already. So in addition to just enjoying unwinding after probably a pretty hefty term of SACs, you guys are probably also thinking about end of year exams, thinking about wrapping up your studying, because this is around the time when these worries start getting into people's heads. So I thought I'd make a video about what I did and what I recommend you guys do between the term 2 and 3 holidays, which are pretty crucial in terms of preparation. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Darren, a first year medical student studying at Monash University here in Melbourne, Australia. Recently I had my first set of uni exams, which were pretty tough and weird. I was sitting at home for 3 hours per exam and just doing 100 multiple choice questions. So just sitting in front of my laptop, just in the comfort of my own room and just clicking on each question, which felt really weird to me. Anyway, I just thought I'd share what's been going on with me. And now uni holidays have begun. I'm planning to do some more YouTube videos and make some more for you guys. So coincidentally, your holidays have started about the same time as me. And so today's video will be talking about what I did in terms of preparation between the term 2 and within the term 2 and term 3 holidays. So for my previous videos where I sort of went over a broad range of my subjects, I just talked about particular ones that I thought a lot of people would do, but I think because of how crucial these holidays are, term 3 is packed full of SACs and exams are not as far away as they used to be. I thought I'd just go through all my subjects. So if you do some subject like Latin or Chinese second language, then hopefully you can get some out of this as well, because I'll be talking about those. So the order of the subjects I'll be talking about are in the description box below for timestamps, but overall they are English language. I'll be talking about math methods and specialist maths together, Latin, Chinese, and finally chemistry. And just before I dive into the first subject, in terms of holiday homework, like I said, there's holiday homework that's you might find helpful, and holiday homework that's sometimes not so helpful, and it's just like, I don't know, they just give it to you to do. I recommend you do all your holiday homework and try and get it out of the way early, because once again, it just leaves a good impression on the teacher, and it just feels good to start off the term well with everything done without the teacher nagging you about things you haven't handed in. Spend more time on the homework that matters, and I'll be going into that. So some homework you might have gotten are essays for English, and I definitely recommend spending a lot of your time on that, a lot of your energy. But some other holiday homework, just tick it off, get it done, and just move on. Also, if you've been enjoying these videos and have taken something out of them, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're getting really close to that 1,000 subscriber benchmark, which I really appreciate. So yeah, anyway, let's dive into our first subject. First up is English. Now with English, the holiday homework you've received is probably in the form of essays, and also looking at your comparative text. And that's also kind of the homework I was set. I don't remember the exact holiday homework I was set, but these are things I did during that holiday period. So in terms of essay, the usual things I say apply in a lot of my English videos, which put a lot of effort into your essays, finding the best moments for them and the best quotes, and just making sure it's the best essay you can produce at that point in time, so that any feedback your teacher gives boosts your ceiling. And the essays you're getting are probably comparative essays. You probably got one comparative essay because that's the SAC that usually comes later in the year. For comparative, it's even more important to find key moments that you can, I don't want to say pair together, because sometimes you do have to shift moments around, but at least find some moments that have themes that resonate within both texts. So moments in both texts that have similar themes that resonate with each other. And in comparative, the moments I used were fewer than the moments I had for my text response. So for text response, I knew the entire play. For the film, there were like moments, for the film and the novel for my comparative, The Queen and Ransom, I didn't know like every single moment. but I knew the key moments, because I think in comparative, there's a lot less time for you to be able to learn everything. So it becomes even more important to pick the quality moments when you're writing your practice essays. And in terms of watching or reading your text, for me, I had a book and I had a movie. So The Queen was the movie and Ransom was the book. In terms of the movie, a really, really useful thing that I don't know if many people do, but for any film you're watching, whether that's for your text response or for your comparative or for your creative, it was earlier in the year, write down timestamps for yourself. Because I found it so annoying in films that I couldn't find things I was looking for. I couldn't find scenes, I couldn't find where quotes were mentioned. And because it's not like a book, you can't just flip really quickly through the pages, it takes ages. And so I wrote down timestamps like 23 ... 40, the stag is killed, for example, as one moment from The Queen. And I'll make those moments, make these timestamps for really important moments and other moments that I've used. And so it becomes much quicker and easier to navigate the film. And I also find that's a roadblock for some people. So when they're preparing the comparative, sometimes they feel overwhelmed because you have to do so much research, have to watch the film again. But if you make timestamps, it becomes a much quicker and more efficient process. In terms of the novel, reading a novel, I didn't analyze it too much in depth. Like I said in my term 1 video, I think, just things will pop out at you that are important and just make a note of them, underline them, highlight them. You don't have to go too in depth with your reading. I think just really get a grasp of the entire novel, have a feel for what the author's trying to convey, have a feel for the flow of events so that the entire novel makes sense in your head. And you can think about some themes that appear, but otherwise just read it for enjoyment. You'll start analyzing really deeply when you write your practice essay and when you return to class as well. Also, you might be asking whether you need to be revising your text response or analyzing and presenting arguments, which happened earlier in the year. I didn't do that, and I don't think it impacted me. I think there is definitely time before exams and after your comparative SAC, so between that period where you don't have any English assessment, there's definitely time to catch up on those things. I remember before my comparative SAC, I did write one analysing presenting argument piece for my teacher to mark, but otherwise I was very focused on doing well in that comparative SAC, which is a very hefty amount of your marks. I think it's 60 marks. So the other two sections, if you feel very unconfident, then you can go over some things, incorporate things that, like if it's not at the level that you want it to be, even during the SAC, like you performed badly in the earlier SACs, then maybe you want to work on it and make it a bit better. But if you're quite happy with where you are with those two, I don't think it's that worthwhile spending so much of your energy on those two sections during these holidays. Next up is English language. In terms of homework, the homework I received, and I'm pretty sure you guys received, will probably just be an essay. And writing an essay doesn't take that long. What really takes ages, and I've mentioned this in my other English language videos, is finding examples. I highly recommend you guys spend time on it. It's very, very worthwhile. It is difficult because you can't search up like when face needs have been catered to and expect good results to come up. You have to look in domains like politics or maybe an interview on a breakfast show. You just have to search a diverse range of areas to find what you actually need, and that's very time consuming. But I really was very rigorous. I spared no pains in doing this. I highly recommend you guys do this as well. In terms of subjects, because I had another English and I had a lot of subjects to do in year 12, I didn't spend as much time on English language in terms of short answer and AC, because once I grasped the structure, knew the meta language, then I knew I could write well and perform well. But the essay, I really spent ages because I knew these were examples I could take in with me to the exam. And your whole essay is reliant on your examples. So if your examples are good, then you can really separate yourself from everyone else. And find examples that have multiple meta language attached to them, and really help support your paragraph contention about jargon or slang or Aussie English, whatever. Something to help you guys look for examples is to think about where something might happen. So like I was saying before, catering face needs. Where can I find something I can use for my paragraph about catering to face needs? I thought maybe, you know, in a breakfast show, when they bring people on, they're probably really kind to them, and, you know, really supportive of whatever project they're pursuing. And so I'd search up, you know, breakfast show when they have a celebrity on and look at transcripts of that. So think about domains where what you're searching for might be occurring, and then go out and look for those. For some other ones like slang, jargon, you just think about your own life, and they're much easier to find than some of the more niche ones. And also with your essay, really build up your paragraph bank during this time. So during the holidays, you don't really have SACs and like school, so you have more time to prepare, and build up the paragraph bank of ethnolex, Aussie English, slang, all the different functions of jargon, and have those prepared so your teacher can have a look at them. And it's good because later in the year, a lot of your classmates will probably be giving your teacher stuff to look at. And so if you get onto it earlier, then that means your teacher will be more free to help you. And with your paragraph banks, spend a lot of time on them. I can't stress this enough. Once you've nailed a certain style of analysis, then you can replicate it so it doesn't take that long to create paragraphs. It's more the example that takes time. And once you've got those examples and you have that analysis, then it's just a matter of shifting it to each essay topic. But definitely have your examples ready. So that means you can write for any essay topic possible. It's like your arsenal of weapons so that you can be prepared for any situation that the essay topic will throw at you. So that's what I recommend you do during the holidays. Really focus on finding examples and crafting your paragraphs. Some of you might be wondering whether I did like practice short answers or analytical commentaries during these holidays. I think I did a couple short answers. ACs I was pretty confident with. I knew the techniques were solidified in my brain and I could find them. I think short answer I did a couple on the VCAR from VCAR exam papers. I knew later in the year I wouldn't have a ton of time to prepare for English language because there are a lot of exams, but also in English language, the earlier exams were slightly different. I don't think they had ACs, but they had a lot of short answer. And so I practiced those and had my teacher corrected them and gave me some feedback on those. Also, if you haven't yet already, just make sure you know all your meta language. It's really a bother reaching the end of the year and seeing like some word on the meta language paper that you've forgotten or don't really know. And it's really annoying and you have to cram it and it just doesn't stick and you get stressed out. So I recommend get onto that early so that you're really prepared for especially the short answer component. Thirdly, we have the math methods and specialist maths. These subjects are the ones where I started practice exams the earliest. Not as early as this. I think I started in early July. And so the way I did it was, I hadn't learned all the content by this point in time. And so my tutor recommended a minute per mark. So I would circle the questions that I could do. So maybe 2006 VCAR paper, I'd circle all the questions relating to anti-diff, derivatives, functions, but leave out the probability ones. And then I would count up how many marks there are available to me, set a timer for that many minutes, and then just go. I think it's really good, helps you with your pacing. And as you do this, you should make note of your silly mistakes and any concepts that you're still unfamiliar with. With holiday homework, maths is the one where they usually shove a lot of work for you to do, a lot of questions. It's good to do, but I think once you reach a certain point, you have to be very purposeful with your learning. Once you've derived something 100 times, like there's no point doing it again if you feel confident and you haven't really made mistakes. And so I guess it's a matter of whether your teacher checks your holiday homework or not. But as long as you've reached a level where you're confident with how you're doing, then move on to doing more problem solving, maybe practice ask questions and exam questions. Another thing I'd say, it is useful in maths to learn ahead. I think out of a lot of subjects that are there, maths is a really good one to learn a bit ahead so that you are prepared in class. And because maths stacks, I feel like sometimes there's not that much time in the term to learn and then apply and then do the SAC. Oftentimes you only have time, if you want to be thorough, to apply and do the SAC. The learning, sometimes I think it's good to get started onto it early so you have an idea of what the concepts are, and then you can grind out a lot of the questions and get prepared for your SAC in term 3. Usually if you need to spend a lot of time learning it and getting your head around it as well, then it becomes a bit more time pressured. So I recommend in this holiday period, maybe looking at ahead at what your school will be covering in the first couple of weeks of term 3 as well. Following the math subjects, I'll be talking about Latin. You might have noticed I don't have the microphone with me at the moment. I realized it wasn't recording, I checked, and it just wasn't working. And so we'll be using the phone's mic for this video. In terms of Latin, a lot of the homework you received are probably in the form of unseens. With unseens, I did them all timed, the ones in the holidays, under 45 minutes, and I would write down how much time I spent on them. And yeah, because that's probably how long you can spend on the exam. I spent, I think, 30 minutes on the unseen in the end of year exam, which because it wasn't that hard of an unseen, but also because you do need a lot of time for the essay. The recommended time they give for the essay, I don't think is enough to do well. Anyway, if you haven't reached a level of proficiency, if there are still many gaps in your knowledge, then I don't recommend timing yourself. I think for the first 2 or 3 unseens, really work on them, spend a lot of time on them, piecing the sentences together, figuring out, like, even if you don't know a sentence, put a guess there, and when you get it wrong, then it sort of burns itself more into your memory about why you got it wrong, if you've made a guess, rather than just leaving it and moving on. Once you've reached a certain level of fluency, then start doing them timed and getting a feel for it. I think for unseens, it's good to have a very clinical approach. So the approach I had was to find the main noun and the main verb, and really split it from the rest of it, because some sentences can be long, but you know there's like a main part. Before it might be a subordinate clause, after it might be a subordinate clause, but these are like separate things that you can treat. So rather than one really long sentence, now you have like fragments that are self-contained and you can work out things from there. So I'd find things that are related, and is this noun related to this adjective? Is this adverb related to this verb? And then just piece it all together. And that really helped me approach especially really hard sentences. So rather than looking at it and be completely baffled, I had a really concrete way of approaching it, finding the noun, finding the main verb, and then seeing where the other words fit in. Are they a temporal clause? Are they relating to the noun? Whatever. And yeah, that definitely helped me a lot. Another thing is to note down your mistakes. So with unseens, it's really good to learn each time. And the reason I encourage you guys to spend some time, if you're not that confident, is because then when you get stuff wrong, it's not like, oh, I just made a similar mistake. It's, okay, I genuinely didn't know this, and this is something I can learn and work on, which is much more helpful. But note down mistakes such as some words you might have like misconceptions about certain words. Some words look like they mean one thing and they actually mean another. And also when you use subjunctive. Subjunctive is very used in a lot of scenarios. Sometimes you might have forgotten when it can be used, or sometimes how it means, may, in certain contexts. And if you've forgotten those little things like that, then just note it down. And this will all come in really handy, and it will help you gain something from each unseen so that you're fully prepared for the end of the year. And translation is worth a lot. It's worth 45 marks of the 100 marks in the end of year. I got 43.5. So even though I didn't spend a lot of time on it, it was because it wasn't that hard of an unseen, and because I had practiced a lot of unseen work beforehand. And yeah, that's how important it is. In terms of the need, I think I'll make a separate video about all the preparation related to that. However, yeah, just do your homework, whether it's poetry, comprehension, and the essay. A lot of it's just knowing the text and knowing the translations. I do recommend you guys get onto memorizing the translations early on, because it is a hassle, it is tough, I know, but once you've done it, you've done it. You really know it, and you can feel more confident moving into the exam and being tested on the comprehension, the poetry, and the essay sections of the need. Second last, we have Chinese. So I sat Chinese second language, and the main thing I did during these holidays was try to memorize my oral. So oral was a massive pain for me. I spent so much time on it, and it is like a big hurdle for a lot of people to pass, because a lot of it's just really brute memorization. And it's kind of okay for your 普通对话, because that is like casual conversation. You're sort of talking about yourself, which isn't that hard. The language is simpler. But I don't know if they still call it 重点研究, but for that section where you have to bring in a picture now, I didn't have to do that, but you guys now have to bring in a picture. a lot of it can be quite complex language. For example, my one was on this guy called Sima Guang, and there was a lot of politics involved, a lot of language from his historical records that he wrote. So the language is quite ancient that I memorized. It's just really hard, and it's really tough to do when you have school as well. So during these holidays, really commit yourself to doing that if you're studying Chinese, so to really just get it out of the way, feel confident for your oral SAC and also for the oral exam, which is earlier than your actual exam. In terms of other preparation, just do the homework your teacher has set. I think learning idioms is very useful. I used Quizlet to learn a lot of the idioms, and yeah, that helped. I could sort of implement them into my essays. So during this period, in conclusion, work on your oral. That's a very, very high priority because it's such a high energy task that really demands a lot of your time to do it well. And anything else that you'd like to work on that you feel weak in, comprehension, listening, then just work on that as well. Also, just as something motivating to say, I did memorize my oral very early on. I'm pretty sure by term 3 I had memorized my oral, and it's really satisfying. Like, it just feels really good when they ask you and you know the answer, and then you just got to perform it in a way that's natural and enjoyable for you. And you're either talking about yourself or you're talking about the picture, but you know you've prepared, you know the words, and it's just a really satisfying feeling that you'll get. So it's hard work, but if you get there, it's definitely worth it. And from that point on, it's just a case of, okay, sometimes this teacher, this examiner asked me, questions I hadn't prepared, and then now I prepare for those. And then I go back in, and now the teacher asks me a question they think I haven't prepared for, but I actually have. So it's a process of sort of reinforcing your armor each time, going in, finding out more questions that you might not prepared for and getting better at those. But once you've memorized the bulk of it, then it's just satisfying. It's you feel really, really proud of yourself because it is an incredibly difficult thing to do. And yeah, I support you guys and hope you guys manage to do it. Chinese is a very difficult subject. I sat in year 11 and it was really tough looking back. And so good luck for you guys who are preparing for that. Finally, we have chemistry. Now, chemistry wasn't a subject that I spent a ton of time on. It's kind of a recurring theme if you've seen my videos, because of my other subjects and yeah, mainly because of my other subjects and because I wasn't particularly good at chemistry. However, my school, so I just did the holiday homework, but my school did set a lot of holiday homework, and the holiday homework was very useful as well. So doing that boosted me. I think I had a really high base chemistry level because of how well Scotch structured chemistry and how awesome my teacher, Mr. Peters, was. And so I had a really good foundation knowledge, and I had a really high return on investment for the amount of time that I spent on the subject, which I think is important. You got to understand things really well so that you can apply them well. What I would say is that if you want to do well in chemistry, definitely revise the semester's content. So a lot of things, thermodynamics, fuels, especially fuels, like we derive certain fuels from the environmental impacts of, say, using hydrogen, of carbon. You probably would have forgotten by now, I know I did, because it's kind of rote memorization in a sense with those. And even some early concepts you might have forgotten. So it's definitely important to go over those. Chemistry, there's a lot of content. For me, it was a pretty content heavy subject considering my other ones, a lot of them were concept based. And so that means that if you want to do well, you have to continually revise the knowledge, and that's much more efficient than cramming towards the end of the year when you have a bunch of other subjects to prepare for as well. So definitely, if you're aiming high, revise early content, maybe start on practice exams as well. The chemistry practice exams are very hefty, very thick books. There's a lot to write, so I do recommend getting onto that, and that will serve you well for the rest of the year if you start doing all those things during these holidays. And just before I start the final remarks of this video, I know you guys also have your UCAT fairly soon. I think it's sort of July, August period. In terms of UCAT, so I set mine really early, 1st of July. I think it was the earliest possible time you could sit it. And so I only had a week of holidays before that. And that entire week I basically spent on UCAT. I didn't do much schoolwork. Because also for Scotch, we had a 3-week holiday. So after that, I had 2 weeks to do my holiday homework. For you guys, depending on where you sit it, you have to rearrange your time accordingly. If you're sitting your UCAT, particularly in the later periods where school's about to start, I highly recommend you just get done with your schoolwork early on. You don't want to overkill your preparation for UCAT, and then afterwards just have to cram your schoolwork half-heartedly for the beginning of term. I do understand that, especially a couple of days before UCAT, you don't really want to do anything else apart from the UCAT, and so that just means sort of arranging your time better and getting your schoolwork done early on in the holidays rather than letting it linger. So that's just a bit of advice for those of you who are sitting the UCAT. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it, especially those of you who are studying more esoteric subjects such as Latin. Please share this with your friends as well. I really like, helping people, so hopefully they can get something out of the video too, especially if you're in those small cohort subjects like English language, Latin, and Chinese second language. A lot of you are in your last week of school, or some of you may have started your holidays. Do enjoy this time, have some fun, see your friends. I think COVID restrictions are easing a bit in Melbourne, so do whatever you normally do with your friends and refresh yourself. I think term 2 was the first real taster of SACs, so congratulations on getting that finished. Term 3 is very hard hitting. You'll have 2 SACs a day, you'll have multiple SACs a week, but as long as you have a good break, but also be very prepared for next semester, I'm sure you guys will crush it. And yeah, good luck for all that and have fun these holidays. Look forward to seeing you all next time.